So it is Sunday, December 20th of 2015. I'm in front of the Unitarian Church in Montreal, engaging in my alternative spiritual practice of protesting against Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy. And just finished the first half hour of my protest, just starting up the second half hour. The video camera that I'm using shoots in half-hour segments, although they are split into actually two segments, one of 17 odd minutes and the other one of 12 odd minutes, but it shoots continuously with a little hiccup for half an hour. And so, I let the camera run through its half-hour run unless something significant happens and I want to cut the clip shorter. And by that I mean not to cut anything out, but just once whatever incident is over, I sometimes shut off the camera and then start it up again, just so the clip's shorter, makes it easier for uploading to YouTube. I don't upload every single file to YouTube because some of them can be pretty boring. Nothing of any significance happens in them, so I don't want to bore people to death with my YouTube videos. But if there's an interesting conversation, or if there's a police interaction, if I'm assaulted by a member of the church, which happens on occasion, that sort of thing, well then I do upload the videos to YouTube. So as I said, I normally just run the video continuously, and one of the reasons for that, not the only one, but one of the primary number one reasons for running video continuously is to protect myself against false accusations made against me by members of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, but it's also to be able to document what happens when it does happen, because you're not always forewarned when a member of the church insults you or assaults you and so on. So if the camera's running, it will capture that event. Same thing goes with police interventions. In fact, when I see a police intervention about to happen, I actually, as much as possible, shut off the camera and start a fresh reel, because I don't want the tape running out, as it were, in the middle of our interaction. I want the maximum time on the video running to be available. So if I see police showing up, I'll often shut off the camera and start a fresh clip, so that I get the full half hour running of the tape, as it were. I mean, tape's not the correct word because it's digital. There's no tape involved. But it's just jargon for video. So we got a few people showing up here on bikes. So it looks like we're getting a reasonable turnout today. I guess it's the last Sunday service before Christmas, so perhaps more people than usual are showing up to attend the service at the Unitarian Church in Montreal, including some faces that are familiar, others that are not. So it's December 20th, if I haven't already mentioned that, 2015, last Sunday before Christmas, and protesting in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal against variety of issues, but the two main issues are anti-religious intolerance and bigotry, and clergy misconduct, which in my case are combined because the previous minister of the church, Reverend Ray Drennan, basically engaged in anti-religious intolerance and bigotry in a manner that can be properly described as clergy misconduct in the form of verbal and psychological abuse and abuse of power and so on. So in my case, those two issues are combined. But, there's anti-religious intolerance and bigotry that does not include clergy misconduct when it is engaged in by the, non-clergy members of the church. I would say that, when a Unitarian Universalist minister, or even a Unitarian Universalist Association president, like Reverend Dr. Peter Morales, engage in anti-religious intolerance and bigotry, that essentially it is clergy misconduct, at least from the perspective of the guidelines for Unitarian Universalist ministers. So I would say, whenever a Unitarian Universalist minister engages in anti-religious intolerance and bigotry, that they're effectively engaging in non-sexual clergy abuse. It's abuse of power, it's verbal abuse, psychological abuse, and so on. And the same goes for the anti-Republican bigotry that's sometimes expressed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers, such as Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein, also known as Peace Bang, and also Reverend Cynthia P. Kane, to name just two Unitarian Universalist ministers who have in fact engaged in what can be properly described as anti-Republican prejudice and bigotry. It goes beyond just legitimate criticism of Republicans. Good morning. It's a wonderful morning. In fact, I like to say that it's always a good morning when I'm basking in the glory of being accused of blasphemy by Unitarians and atheist Unitarians at that. The fact of the matter is, one of the more recent issues I've been protesting is the fact that on Friday, June 1st of 2012, I was falsely accused of the criminal act of blasphemous libel by the Unitarian Universalist Association's Canadian attorney, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe of Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors, for allegedly, and I do say allegedly, making unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. So essentially what happened is I was looking in my email inbox on Friday, June 1st of 2012, and I saw an email from Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors, and so I opened it, and the email itself was very brief. It just said, please refer to the attached file, and there was a PDF file of a cease and desist demand letter attached to the email, and so I opened that up, and amongst other highly questionable, essentially false, and indeed mostly quite ludicrous accusations, there was the aforementioned accusation of blasphemous libel. And the pretext for accusing me of blasphemous libel was, for allegedly saying, allegedly, I should say, falsely claiming that Unitarian Universalist ministers were guilty of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. Well, the interesting thing is that I'd done no such thing. I had blogged about one Unitarian Universalist who I correctly referred to as a pedophile rapist because he was actually convicted of raping preteen girls, including a female family member. So this was someone who, to the very best of my knowledge, was not even a Unitarian Universalist minister, who was actually convicted of pedophilia and rape combined. And so my allegations about him were by no means unfounded. And similarly, I had blogged about Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell, who had been charged, tried, and convicted of the forcible rape of teenage Tibetan refugees who he had lured away from their families in India with promises of a better life in America. Essentially, he had told their parents, that if you put your daughters into my care, I will ensure that they're well taken care of and that they get an education and so on. Well, yeah, they got an education, all right. They were repeatedly raped over a period measured in years in at least one case and months in another. So that's the education they got from Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell. So the point being here is that the pretext for accusing me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel was completely false. It was a lie. Maitre Marc-André Coulombe was in a position to know perfectly well that my blog posts about Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell and about Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein's First Parish Norwell parishioner, Richard Buell, were by no means unfounded, nor were they particularly vicious. They essentially just told the truth about them. I didn't exaggerate things. I didn't throw in, all kinds of adjectives and so on. I just pretty much stated the facts. So there's nothing particularly vicious about them, just telling the truth, that had already been reported in newspapers. So I wasn't saying anything that wasn't already public knowledge. Yet, the Unitarian Universalist Association and no doubt Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein herself, wanted these blog posts to disappear because they did not reflect very well on the Unitarian Universalist Association and Reverend Victoria Weinstein, because she had actually tried to, keep the Richard Buell case hidden as much as possible in terms of knowledge that this guy was a Unitarian Universalist. None of the news reports about Richard Buell's conviction for rape mentioned that he was a Unitarian Universalist at all. But it was obvious that he was, because there had been an announcement about a special meeting being held at First Parish Norwell regarding his conviction, a meeting presided over by Reverend Deborah Pope Lance, who's an expert in dealing with normally clergy sexual misconduct issues, but I guess because this was a sexual misconduct issue, albeit on the part of a layperson, she had been called in to help the congregation of First Parish Norwell to process that conviction of one of their members as a pedophile rapist, essentially. So what happened is and this is kind of ironic because going back to, trying to think now, I think it was 2006, maybe 2007, Reverend Dr. Victoria Weinstein was stridently attacking the Roman Catholic Church over clergy sexual abuse on the part of its ministers, or priests I should say. She had a very strident blog post, what is it about Catholics, blah, 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 or what is it about the Catholic Church that causes this, and so I had seen this post, and I had posted some comments. Well, what about Reverend Mac Mitchell's rape of teenage Tibetan refugees? How does Unitarian Universalism explain that? How is this how does this relate to Unitarian Universalism and so on and so forth. Just to make the point that the Roman Catholic Church wasn't the only church that had clergy sexual misconduct problems. And of course, Reverend Victoria Weinstein deleted all of my comments and kept them hidden. And I forgot to mention that at the time, Peace Bang, as she was known, was pseudonymous. In other words, this blogger was known to be, or claimed to be, a Unitarian Universalist minister, but went by the pseudonym Peace Bang. In other words, her real name was not associated with her blog. She was essentially blogging anonymously. And she had previously behaved quite badly. This wasn't her first questionable behavior, and that was sort of the last straw for me was this attempt on her part to keep Unitarian Universalist clergy sexual misconduct hidden, while stridently attacking the Roman Catholic Church for its clergy sexual misconduct problems. That was sort of just the utmost hypocrisy from my perspective. And so I said, I'm going to try and find out who this Peace Bang is, so I can criticize her by name, basically out her and say, this is the minister who's, behaving badly on the internet. And as I said, not just in terms of this strident attack on the Roman Catholic Church. So essentially what it came down to is I discovered that it seemed probable that her first name was Victoria, based on a comment that had been made to one of the blog posts in which the commenter addressed Peace Bang as Victoria.